Okay, here's another history episode, and this is going to focus on Christopher Columbus and the gold fields. And basically, the last episode, I'm just going to clear up some stuff that I talked about in the last episode, and somebody commented that I end too abruptly the episodes, and they say, well, they were hoping for more. And so usually I try to tell us a little moment in history and then end it there rather than a whole bunch of different moments. And I recorded this yesterday, but I only got a couple hours of sleep because black people bang on my ceiling all night and I just couldn't sleep. And so they're probably going to do it tonight again. But anyways, I have a little bit more sleep than I did 2 nights ago. So this episode is just going to be basically me talking, clearing up some things about the last episode. And then this episode is going to end with a continuation of the last episode and some stuff that I intentionally left out. So I've been reading a lot of history books and memoirs and notes and all these different things, and I've been writing these things down in my notes just for fun over the years, and then until I decided to make a channel. And so I have all these things in chapters, and I have all these different moments inside each of these chapters. And so when I want to push out these notes onto an episode, I don't want to put them all into one episode because it's going to be just too much to digest. So I'd figure I'd just break it up in like little moments so you could really digest the moment. Like, Christopher Columbus getting drunk with the natives. It's like, man, you don't think of stuff like that. But if I would have just went off and talked about something else, you'd be like, well, which one is important, right? But if I break up all these moments into little segments, then you could see every moment as important and relevant and interesting. And in the last episode, we talked about Christopher Columbus finding Cibao, or the Cibao Valley, and all the gold that was there. And then they built that city, and then the city was around for a few decades until it got knocked down by an earthquake. And so that's just it's interesting stuff. And then I followed up concluded with how money drives people, and then the people were trying to scam Columbus and all that. So the last episode had 2 memorable parts to it, which was Columbus finding the gold, and then the other part, which the episode concluded with Christopher Columbus getting scammed by some people. Well, they intended to scam Columbus, and he found some letters, supposedly, and then jailed the guy and sent him back to Spain. In modern day history books don't really talk about it, especially in schools, because there's quite a few guys that started this kind of narrative. And a lot of people take from those guys and run with it. And a lot of the history books nowadays are pretty much the same thing, and they're all just bullshit. So I like to bring up these moments that people don't talk about it because they're pretty interesting. And of course, all these things are relatable. Just imagine you were on an island and you found a bunch of gold, right? Or imagine somebody scamming you when they found money. Just like I mentioned in the last episode, you can't trust your friends or your coworkers, right? Because when there's money involved, they just want to scam you, right? Some people. So if you look at Christopher Columbus as a human, then you could relate yourself rather than a cartoon figure that the narrative paints as some kind of demonic dude, right? But none of those bitches read the memoirs. None of those bitches did. Because they're afraid, and they don't want to because they're afraid. They have that. They were programmed so well that they can't even try to read the memoirs and understand people in a human level. And they'll definitely hate this channel because I bring out those kind of ideas, right? How the last episode was focused on wealth and greed, how it could turn your friends and your coworkers against you. You're like, no, man. And how some women use you for money and some men do too, right? Because money will drive people to do shitty things, even day-to-day modern times, right? So people hate this day-to-day Christopher Columbus thorough analysis, right? It is what it is. I want to catch all these little moments in history and put them into an episode, in little episodes here and there, right? All these moments are interesting parts of history, right? And only hand-picking out certain parts of history to tell a story, whether it's good or bad, is not a complete history. Like, what if I introduced you to someone and only introduced you as someone that has lied, some amount or throughout your life. And I would cut out the facts that surrounded the lie to paint a real dirty picture of you, and you would hate me for it. You'd be like, "You bastard, why you do that?" I was like, "I'm just telling somebody about you." But that's what the news does. That's what history books do. That's what they all do. Not all of them, but a lot of these bastards do that. And Howard Zinn's one that comes to mind, that wrote a real popular history book that a lot of people had been influenced by. I'm not trying to find excuses for anyone in history that may have done one thing or another, but rather I'm trying to give a fuller picture in order for that situation to become more human, and to be able to analyze that situation as somewhat relatable, as human as possible. Because people kind of get it mixed up a lot nowadays. Like, for example, they look at Christopher Columbus as like an ideology, and then they'll look at like something, for example, like CNN as a person. I'll be like, CNN is evil, but CNN is just a news show, right? It's not even a person. It can't be evil. It's just the people inside of it, or someone said something crazy and that person's evil because of that. And Christopher Columbus is a human. And if you look throughout all my episodes that I have so far, that I still have up, you could see that there was a lot of crazy stuff going on at the time of Christopher Columbus and prior. There was a lot of killing and a lot of conquest and so on and so forth, not just from European people, but from Arab people and black people as well. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on at the time. And throughout the episodes that I have so far of Christopher Columbus, you will see that Christopher Columbus didn't do much yet. And so far, we have a lot of histories of Christopher Columbus on these episodes. And if this is all you heard besides the mainstream, without hearing the mainstream, you would be like, okay, this is some dude that's coming to America to figure some stuff out, right? Find some gold and to colonize, so on and so forth, right? And you don't really see him as evil. Not yet, because the mainstream media hasn't come into these episodes yet, right? We're not finding any of those parallels, right? To be like, oh, damn it, there it is, right? But it does get bloody. It does get crazy at times. You'll see. Just wait. But these guys are all human, and you could see that we see that all humans still want power and control in many different forms, and in all these different places throughout the world every day. Whether you're at work, whether you're on the road and somebody cuts you off, whether somebody's taxing you, and then taking your tax money and giving it to illegal aliens, right? It's about control and power, and somebody always gets the shaft, right? And there's a lot of people that always think that their way is the right way, even at the dinner table, right? Or at a family gathering or with your friends, whatever. There's always somebody that knows better, right? But it's crazy that there's these people that think they know better than you, and they damn you for it. And a lot of times, even daily, you'll find a lot of instances where people are attacked because of different ideologies, whether it's religion or politics or whatever it might be, right? Ideologies. Where the ideologies come from? It comes from politics and religion, right? Or just societal ideologies, right? Like Antifa has the ideology of culture and economics, right? Where some people think that it's okay for a man to go into a woman's locker room and get naked with them and participate as if he was a woman, right? Some people think that's normal. That's an ideology, right? Where did that come from? It comes from the news and whatever, right? And people get damned and attacked for thinking differently. But is punching someone in the face the best way to win someone over? Probably not, right? Because most humans want to retaliate. Some don't, but others do. And some will hold a grudge forever to try to ruin your life the best that they can. until they achieve happiness, but they never do, because they're always going to be punching people in the face and retaliating their whole life. That's what life's about, right? Until they find some people that they could subjugate, right? Some like lower class people they could surround themselves with, right? They don't need to punch them in the face because they're servants, right, of their ideology. And yeah, so I live on a road that goes straight to downtown Chicago. So there's a lot of traffic from here. And so I have to press pause every time a truck or car goes by, but sometimes I I'm in the middle of a sentence, so I don't. Yeah, so anyways, Christopher Columbus had been through a lot of situations in the last episodes, as we have seen, and there's he just came back to the islands and on a second trip, and his people were dead, and people were the natives were lying to him, and then his friends were scamming him, and so it was really crazy situations going on. Just imagine. It's like, who can you trust, right? And he couldn't trust people back then. You just can't trust people these days, right? Communication, he tried communicating with the natives, and he was friends with them, and he got drunk with them. Christopher Columbus got drunk with the natives and hung out with them and ate with them and all these types of things. And there were situations that were good, and there were situations that were bad, right? Now, Christopher Columbus was communicating with his amigos with the same language, and they were still scamming him and lying to him. So it's like, it doesn't even matter if you speak the same language, because they'll lie to you, right? There's that. It doesn't matter if you speak the language or not. People will scam you, friends or not. Hey man, I thought you were on my side. Nope, not this time. You can't trust friends or family or coworkers, nobody, politics, anybody. No, there's like people like my ex-girlfriend, my kid's mom, right? Like, I can't communicate with her because she's like a lying, gaslighting freak, right? And so I tell her I can't communicate with her because I don't know when she's lying, and she just doesn't care what I say, right? She only wants me to hear what she says. Or for example, like the black dude upstairs, like he's banging until 3 a.m. every single night. There's just like nonstop noise. It's like insane noise, like every single day, banging every single day, till 3 a.m. every single day. It's crazy. And I came up to him a few times and I told him, I was like, hey dude, I hear you upstairs. He's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yes, I did, man. I heard you till 3 a.m. He's like, it ain't me. I was like, I must be the Mexican dude, but the Mexican dude's like super cool. So I know he's lying. The Mexican dude is quiet as a mouse, and sometimes I see that mouse like fly by in the corner of my eye, and I'm like, hey Frankie, where you going, man? But yeah, so the best thing to do for those types of people is like just get away from them, right? So there's people that lie in like everyday situations. There's people that you just gotta look out for and try to avoid, and hopefully not run into more of those types of people as often as you can. And Christopher Columbus was running into these situations, and it's just interesting stuff. And so those are the points I try to bring up, but it's like hard to put it out in words, right? And it's very interesting that Christopher Columbus didn't speak the Taino language, but he was able to get drunk with these guys and hang out with them so much. But as you could see throughout the memoirs, that there was like weird situations. So sometimes maybe they would have understood him, and maybe they didn't understand him correctly. It's just interesting stuff. And from what I gathered from what I heard from the mainstream, is that from other books that skim through these notes, is that Christopher Columbus came and he found out that his people were dead, and then all of a sudden Christopher Columbus got mad and he made all those people work, and then he started cutting their hands off, so on and so forth. But that just didn't happen. As you could see throughout the episodes, that Christopher Columbus actually found out the people were dead, and he wanted to find out who killed him. And then he went and he met up with the chief, and they hung out, and the chief said, well, the chief was kind of like telling some weird stories, and they didn't know what to believe. And then Christopher Columbus invited the dude to his boat to hang out and have some drink and have some food, and they did. And then he asked the chief if he could build a house there in the area. This is all happening after he knew about his friends that died, or his co-workers, however you want to call them. This is pretty interesting stuff. So where do I end an episode like this, right? So what do I say? And see, that's how it works. So next episode, I don't know how to do it, but so I'm gonna follow conclude this. I'm gonna end this video with some stuff I did yesterday when I was half asleep. So I'm gonna end my microphone now, and it's gonna continue to yesterday's talking points, where I talked about more stuff in the memoirs, because like I said before, I separate different moments, interesting moments, and I don't want to add a bunch of like somewhat interesting moments to those, because then you won't understand them or care about them. You know what I mean? So here goes. So that last episode, there was more to it, of course, right? There was the next day, right? And Christopher Columbus, I guess, had a brother with him named Don Diego, who that Christopher Columbus brought. It was Columbus's younger brother that was born in the year 1468 from Italy, and he brought him on his second trip with him. He's like, "Come on, Don Diego, let's go for a ride." He's like, "Where are we going?" He's like, "You're gonna like this, man. This is crazy. You got to see these people. They paint their faces all crazy, and they smoke this, and then they have this what is it called now? That drug that they had that makes them hallucinate. I forgot. Holy shit! And so yeah, they get this hallucinogenic drug, and then they have free love everywhere. So everybody's tripping balls, getting high, having sex, and painting their faces. And we're hanging out with them. Just get in the boat." So yeah, after Christopher Columbus had put that one dude arrested that was gonna scam Columbus, Senor Bernal de Pisa, then they made Columbus and his brother and some other people made their way to Cibao. And Columbus took all the tools he could so they could build a town. And he brought shovels and hammers, whatever else he brought with him, and he brought a lot of people with him. It's also mentioned in the memoirs that he brought a lot of people because, like, he knew that sometimes that the natives would attack him. So he says, "Man, screw that getting attacked again. I don't feel like it. Not today." He's like, "I want to bring a bunch of people with me." And what they did is, it's written that Columbus had all of his men march like a soldiers marching, right? Like they were all in line. He's like, "Come on, we're gonna scare them." And he had a bunch of these Christians following Columbus to the Cibao. And see, like, there's these little moments that happen in between, like, they don't really talk about. And so when he made his way from Isabella to Cibao, he passed a bunch of, like, little villages. And who knows what he was doing with them little villages, you know? Who knows if he stopped or if he just drove by and waved like a president, you know? "Hello," and just kept driving. People were like, "Where are you going, man?" He's like, "Going that way." But he did stop at one of the little villages along the way, and to spend the night there. He's like, "Gotta start again in the morning." And so he named that place that he stopped at Puerto de los Hidalgos. And so they made it to on this trail that was only big enough for one man to fit in. So that's interesting, right? He said that, that he when Columbus was making his way to Cibao, that they would walk down these Indian trails, and the Indian trails were so thin that only one guy at a time could go through it, right? And they had like two guys like way ahead of them to check out and make sure there was no craziness going on in front of them. And so, just interesting stuff that happened. They were scared. That's right. He's like, "You guys go first, and if we see blood or you dead on the way, then we're going to turn around." I wonder if the microphone's picking up the black people banging on the ceiling right now. It's like constant, like every 5 seconds, there's like a doom, doom, boom, doom. Like right now, fucking animals. So eventually, Christopher Columbus and his people stopped by a river that Columbus named Rio de las Ganas that flowed into the Monte Cristi. And they slept there that night. So if you know where that is, then you know where they slept. You could either spit on the ground, or you could just sit there and eat a sandwich and be like, Columbus slept here one night. And he passed many little villages with round houses thatched with straw hanging from it. They also mentioned in the memoirs that the doors on a lot of these straw houses that the Indians had, the doors were so low that people had to duck through, to get in. I wonder why they did that. Probably so the rain didn't get in, or to keep out the big bears, right? But Christopher Columbus had some natives with him, and in the memoirs, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but he said that the natives that Columbus had with him, when they went past these villages, the natives would go into these houses and take whatever they wanted from the other Indians, and then just go on. And Columbus is like, they all share stuff, and they're just like, yeah, the dude just took an avocado and he's gone. It's not specific on what they took, but that's very interesting. But they also mentioned that in the memoirs that the natives of these villages would sometimes come up to the Christians and take whatever they wanted from the Christians as well, in a similar fashion. They're like, you guys are all part of the same crew, and they took from us some avocados or whatever else they took, and now we're going to take some of your weird stuff that you got on you. Everybody's like, well, okay. And of the woods that they went through, they said that the woods were the most of beautiful trees, among which they saw the vines and aloe trees and wild cinnamon, and others that had fruit like a fig, and so on and so forth. So this is on their way to Cibao, right? So these are all just like little moments, and it's like, should we forget about them? No, it's just like cool to hear about it, and so that's why I break them up into these little episodes. And I didn't want to put it at the end of the other episode because it'd just be like dragging on, and how would I end it, So I could leave this little boring episode here by itself, and the other one in the interesting episode with the finding the gold and people scamming Columbus, And this one's just plainly dudes just walking down some small trail and seeing some natives and trading with them, so whatever else, So that's it. And I use a lot of Photoshop, and when I take like certain pictures, I'll Photoshop out certain things and put them into other things. And I do that because I know a lot of stuff on the internet is copyrighted, so I don't want to get in trouble with any of those people. So that's why I manipulate all the different pictures I can in the most crazy way I can. Nobody could come after me and be like, dude, that's my picture. Be like, no, it ain't. It's mine. And I was using my camera and doing different speeds, but some people complained about it. They're like, what kind of stupid picture is that? I said, it's ICM photography, man. But anyways, don't subscribe to this channel. And you could share this episode with your enemies, and they'll really hate you for it. So I'm ending this episode with Christopher Columbus walking through narrow trails and finding gold and getting scammed by his friends and these types of things. And he's not killing anybody. He's just trying to look for stuff and checking out the trees, whatever. So that's it. That's all this episode is. And I'm going to end it here. You can listen to the traffic in the background. And that's it. Adios.